Hello Malaysia, hello world. Apa khabar? ECM Talk is back with another interesting topic. What makes Foodpanda unique? I'm Rajesh Shahrul, your host. Foodpanda Malaysia started with one goal in mind: to be the most convenient delivery service in the country. Years later, it operates successfully in more than 85 cities in Malaysia with many customers. Using the easy smartphone app or the website, anyone can find their favorite restaurants near you and order their favorite dish, or even groceries, medication, snacks, beverages, and more. Whether it is breakfast delivery, lunch, or dinner delivery, Foodpanda is your ultimate place to order food from any kind of restaurant and shops anywhere in Malaysia. Foodpanda believes food is a pleasure and food ordering should be fast and fun experience. Without saying any more, let us hear from the man himself, Sai, the Managing Director of Foodpanda Malaysia, to share with us his experience with this brand that has always been a talk about to everyone on food delivery service. Alright, Sai, if I may begin with, why should someone comes to work with Foodpanda? Tell us about it. Why Foodpanda?
That's a great question, and of course, we are living through unusual times during the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, I think we're at the tail end of the pandemic right now, and hopefully we can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel and begin to resume what normal life would look like. But I think having, been through the challenges, been through the ups and downs of what a pandemic can look like and what a pandemic can do in terms of how it can affect work, we've managed to adjust quite positively, and we've been quite agile when it comes to ensuring that our operations on the ground remain stable. And a huge part of this, or a huge factor of this, is because our teams have also been ready to respond, ready to rise up to the challenge that a pandemic can bring about. And with the pandemic and with the nuances and the caveats that we've seen that a global pandemic can bring, we know that with it, the team needs to rise to unique challenges. And that actually makes our work a lot more interesting. Right. Of course, we have been one of the more fortunate companies during this period when the pandemic has sort of affected us disproportionately. And it's always interesting and it's always challenging for us to be able to solve problems and new problems every single day. And, one of the philosophies that we live up to is that every day at Foodpanda feels like day one. And so whenever you come into Foodpanda to work at Foodpanda, every day you're solving new challenges, you're coming up with new solutions. And so that's really, really interesting, and it keeps us going, given our role in terms of helping to build the nation as well and helping to divide any barriers that exist, or bring down any barriers that exist when it comes to building a more mature digital economy. And alongside that, I think, at Foodpanda, we pride ourselves in the culture that we built. And so everyone is treated like they're part of a family. We have a team strength now that is about 600 strong. But I can say that, a lot of us still know each other by their first names. We still know whoever is in the company. And we aim to keep that distance as narrow as possible. So there should not be a point of time when someone doesn't know each other. And that proximity brings us closer together to try and solve really complex problems. So I think, coming to work at Foodpanda is not only something that can be rewarding, but at the same time, you do feel like you're part of a family.
Good. Very interesting. Now, Sai, looking at the pandemic situation now, with the recent announcement by the Prime Minister yesterday on the interstate travel and whatnot, and how would that change Foodpanda's working environment, so to say?
So I think, prior to the pandemic, a lot of us actually used to travel for work, whether it be domestically or internationally, myself included. But of course, over the last 1.5 years, 2 years, that has come to a grinding halt. And I still remember when the first ever MCO was announced, which was, I think, way back in March of last year. I was actually desperately trying to catch a flight out of KK last minute so that I could make it back to KL before the borders were shut down. But it just shows, how life can be upended, and basically what you took for granted is no longer something that you could easily leverage of or easily depend on. So one of those things has definitely been travel. And I actually welcome the announcement that interstate travel will be relaxed, because that means we get the opportunity to go to areas which we have actually launched during the pandemic, which none of us have had the opportunity to visit. And some of these areas are very rural areas. We call them kind of tier 5 townships that have populations of less than 20,000 or 15,000 inhabitants. And so what I'm really looking forward to most is being able to explore and experience some of these areas and what the digital economy actually looks like in some of these smaller townships, and how people interact with the internet in general. That's something that keeps us going, because as we kind of further the agenda of the digital economy, we need to ensure that we don't leave anyone out from what is proving to be a revolution when it comes to actually leveraging of digital products. And just as an example, a lot of people associate the internet with Facebook. So when a lot of people, especially in rural areas, they may not even grasp what the true meaning of the internet is, because for them, Facebook is the actual internet. And for them, they get all the information via platforms such as Facebook. So we want to build the Facebook of food, and we want to do that through improving our product, not only for food, but also the Facebook of quick commerce. And what that means is being able to deliver more than food. So it could be your daily essentials, some grocery products that you need. You could actually depend on Foodpanda to be able to fulfill those wishes for you. But with kind of restricted travel, we haven't been able to see how this has evolved in maybe some of the smaller cities. I think living in a city, in a mega city like KL, which is very urban centric, sometimes we take things for granted and we don't actually understand the nuances and the caveats that exist in some of the smaller towns, and what kind of localized problems people in those towns actually face. So with the relaxation of interstate travel, I'm really looking forward to visiting some of these areas, some of these smaller townships, and at the same time also being able to visit some of the key hubs that we have outside of Klang Valley, whether it's KK, Kuching, JB, being able to interact with the teams there and really growing the business forward in those areas.
Right. Now, with that being said, what are the key success factors for Foodpanda, Sai? If you can share that with us.
Sure. So I think one thing that we really always want to kind of relate to is how we can provide a superlative customer experience. And at the end of the day, we always want to do what's best by our customers. And whether that means delivering food quicker, or whether that means providing even more options beyond food, whether it be the best supermarkets in town or the best shops in town, we want to always make sure that we're that one step closer to the customer, and we reduce the distance between what we perceive as being what the customer wants and what the customer actually wants.
Right.
And so I think that dogmatic vision is actually what makes us so successful, because every single thing we do points towards being able to fulfill an experience for a customer and deliver a superlative experience to that customer. And so that's what's kept us going, to be honest, during the MCO. We are very, very honored, privileged, and indebted to Malaysia and Malaysians who have relied and depended on us to get their daily needs fulfilled on a day in, day out basis. And we aim to always uphold and keep that trust. So having or ensuring that the customer is at the front and center of everything that we do is really, really important. But maybe, drilling down into some of the technical aspects of what makes us so successful, one thing that we know that we need to improve, and one thing that we always look at, is how quickly can we deliver some of these items? How quickly can we deliver some of these meals to the customer? 2 years, 3 years ago, a customer would have been fine to get or receive food maybe within 1 hour or 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Now that anticipation and that expectation has changed.
Yeah.
And these days we see customers wanting to get their food or whatever it is in less than 30 minutes. So we have to continuously evolve and adjust our systems to make sure that we uphold and we address those needs and we meet them head on. So we need to ensure that the technology is sophisticated enough. We need to make sure that the product is advanced enough to be able to deliver to a customer in 30 minutes or less. Whereas just 1 or 2 years ago, everyone would have been okay with a threshold of 45 minutes or less. We have had to now cut that almost in half to make sure that customers don't, they don't feel disappointed when we actually provide the service to them.
Yeah.
So that basically, that understanding as well, and how to kind of win via speed of execution has made us so successful. And the third thing I would point to as well is our, I think, undying need to be able to service each and everyone in the country. And that means, regardless of whether you're in Labuan or in Simpang Renggam or in Cebu or Bintulu or wherever it is you may be, we want to be there. We want to have Foodpanda as an option for you. And that's why we always look at ways to really try and build inroads in cities that may not have, population densities as dense as a KL or a JB, but we know that there's still a need for the service. And that's why we want to really extend our footprint even to those areas which may traditionally come across as being, as having less inhabitants or not being so densely populated.
Now, if I may ask this side, what about your competitors? If you just look at the Malaysian market, everybody wants to go into this business. Everybody wants to be like Foodpanda. Now, what have you to say about your competitors in this side?
So I think when we talk about the competitive landscape, it's important to define who our competitors are. And I actually have a different view of who our competitors are. I feel that, our competitors are still those people potentially without the risk of stereotyping those people who are still cooking food at home. So typically your housewives who are still cooking food at home, who are actually our competitors when it comes to the restaurant delivery space, because we feel that, cooking is such an ineffective way of actually spending time. One of the things that we know and we sort of have built up as a mission for us is that we're in the business of saving time. And so time is a new currency. Right. It's actually the new digital currency. You talk a lot about crypto and everything else, digital assets. But for us, time is really what keeps everyone going. And time from a customer's perspective is the most valuable currency that they have. And so when we did some research and when we did some surveys, cooking, the whole process can take up to 90 minutes, so an hour and a half out of your day, when you actually realize that you only have 10 hours in a day to actually maybe fulfill some of the tasks and some of the duties that you need to. Out of that 1.5 to 2 hours of your time, so about 20% of your time, being awake during the day is taken up by cooking, and that's just for one meal. So now if you kind of bundle in 2 or 3 meals, already easily you take up 3 hours of your time, whether it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, whatever else it is, including the washing up and all that sort of stuff. So we feel that actually that's then devaluing the currency that is the most valuable to our customers, which is time. And so from that perspective, we want to ensure that we save customers that time and we're able to deliver in 30 minutes or less, let's say. And that's why we recently diversified and we provided customers with the option to be able to even order their favorite fresh products, regardless of whether it's poultry, milk, or whatever else. So from my perspective, competition is really those people who are still relying on traditional methods of cooking and producing food. But of course, when it comes to kind of the e-commerce space, we welcome competition. We believe time and time again, as has been proved across multiple industries, that competition makes us better and it makes us innovate faster and it keeps us on our toes at times. And without that, we would not have the divergent and creative thinking ability to be able to stay on top of our game and ahead of the curve. So we firmly believe that we are, as the success actually, a portion of that generates from the fact that there's competition in the market. And it's interesting to see that a lot of the smaller players are up and coming. A lot of the smaller startups are really trying to get their feet wet. And we welcome that. I think, it's really encouraging and heartening to see that more and more Malaysians or Malaysian-led startups and founders are taking the risk to actually come up and start their own businesses. Of course, there's critical pitfalls to be aware of because starting a food delivery company is never easy given the tight margins that we operate on. But regardless, it's very, very encouraging to see that many more people are trying to take this step in terms of building their own startups. I think there's no better lesson than, let's say, if you have put in the effort and you have failed, rather than not doing it at all. And so we're happy to see so many of these players trying to understand, trying to educate themselves around the market, but at the same time also they are being inclusive in terms of breaking down the digital barriers that exist, and this can only help the system and the ecosystem overall. So we're very happy to see that.
Good to know. Sai, okay, what next for Foodpanda?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think I alluded to maybe some of the key points earlier on, but it would definitely involve being available to each and every single Malaysian, regardless of where you are. So we're looking at maybe more advanced delivery methods via drones to reach some really outer rural areas where, infrastructure has not even been developed to the extent that we're used to. And so one of the things that maybe we can look forward to is potentially having a system where we deliver our orders via drones or autonomous vehicles into areas which are not accessible to current forms of transportation. Yeah. And so very soon, I think we will be getting our hands and feet wet in terms of trialing out different delivery methods across rural areas. The other thing that I think is really, really important, or is really, really pivotal for us, is to be able to expand our footprint into non-food areas, but they're adjacent areas to the business anyway. And so this would include, ensuring that we have more non-food products available and accessible to consumers everywhere, whether they're things like toilet paper, or whether they're things like fresh vegetables, or eggs, or something else. We want to make sure that customers can rely on us regardless of whether they need a hot meal delivered to them or whether they need products to keep them going throughout their day-to-day lives. We want to make sure that this is all available on Foodpanda. And so what you can expect is we actually grow this channel even more. And we have a few exciting features as well in place that are going to be rolled out at a large scale. And one of those features is actually a subscription program. So it's called Panda Pro. And so customers will then have the opportunity to actually be a Foodpanda subscriber, yeah, and be able to access their wish list, their products at almost half the price. So anyone who is looking to become, or anyone who is already a loyal customer and they feel that Foodpanda is intrinsic within trying to live their day-to-day lives, this subscription program will really help them do that. So those are some of the exciting, I think, topics that you can look ahead to.
Thank you.
Right, Miss, I shall call you. I was told to just call you Sai. Don't call you by anything else but Sai. Okay, Sai.
Sai is good.
Yes. All right, Sai. Thank you so much and for coming to our program. And it's been an interesting sharing on this topic today, Sai. And we really look forward to see you and even hear from you again soon, right?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Sai. Thank you. Till we meet again. All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, right. Thank you, Sai, for your interesting sharing on this topic today. Foodpanda is on a mission to redefine food. People, culture, and technology are connected. Their Panda family consists of a problem solvers, designers, and thinkers working around the clock to make this food delivery service the most powerful online tool for food convenience in the country, if not for the world. Once again, thank you, Sai, for your participating in our ECM talk and taking your precious time from your busy schedule to be with us. ECMians, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Edu Channel Malaysia. The COVID-19 pandemic is not quite over yet, despite opening of interstate borders. Please adhere strictly to the SOPs that have been put in place. Lindung diri, lindung semua. Until we meet again in our next program, jumpa lagi. Bye.